your weekly view of young leaders taking big steps. This is Next Gen. Presented by PFI, home of Boo Daddy. We are back at Missouri State University Starr College of Agriculture to meet Ben Travalos, a graduate student, and learn why he's so fascinated with the beginning farmer. Hey, Ben.
Hey, Jamie. Thanks for coming out.
Oh, my pleasure. So I hear you've been pretty busy.
We have been busy.
Okay, tell me about this project you've been working on.
Okay. The average age of today's American farmer is continuing to increase, and more there's people not wanting to return to their family farms. And so there's these government programs that have been created to assist beginning farmers, but really where this research is looking at is what are the barriers to program utilization and ascertaining possible solutions to those barriers.
So take me to the beginning. How did you come up with the idea for this project?
Yeah, it all began actually when I was on the Collegiate Farm Bureau officer team here at Missouri State, and we proposed a policy for Missouri Farm Bureau to adopt to sort of start a study for beginning farmers, and that's really where this whole idea got jump-started. And I'm going through the policy process, I decided that, hey, this could be my graduate research project. And so talking with Dr. Anson Elliott, he led me to Mrs. Nicole Bushdecker, and from there she became my main academic advisor and helped me through this project. I've got a lot of friends here in college and also just growing up that, that grew up on family farms, and they want to eventually go back to the family farm, but it's a hard thing to do with the high startup costs of farming and that sort of thing. And so trying to find ways to assist with that, and also maybe assist with those who didn't grow up on a farm. Maybe there's some way that they can be the first generation to do that.
So this is a topic I know that hits home with me, and I think all of us in agriculture know someone down the line that it affects. Mrs. Bushdecker, what were the first steps you initiated to kind of get this ball rolling?
After he came to me with the idea, we had to do a little bit of figuring out exactly what's out there. So I talked to some adult ag educators that work with some of these young and beginning farmers to kind of get a feel of what they see, to see if, hey, is this relevant to our Missouri farmers? And the feedback I got was tremendous, just in casual conversation, saying, oh yeah, I know an instance that, this FFA member couldn't be in this program because he had too many schedule lapses, so to speak. So he had too much experience. And so to me, an FFA member that has too much experience and can't be part of these programs, it's devastating, right? Because these are our beginning farmers. So from that aspect, then we hit the ground running with the research in terms of what's been done and evaluating what programs are out there. So Ben did a lot of background research into nitty-gritty details of what's out there for our farmers. And then we decided that we really wanted to hear the words from the farmers and what they're experiencing. And to do that, we had to do focus groups. So I designed and identified those focus groups and kind of went from there to get that real impact versus a survey or just the data. We wanted the emotion and the impact that we're feeling.
You mentioned programs. Ben, what specifically are those programs that I know are offered at the state and national level?
Yeah, absolutely. So because of past research of barriers that beginning farmers face, there's been a wide array of programs created on the state and federal levels. And a lot of them come in the form of low interest loan programs, like with the Farm Service Agency. There's also beginning farmer provisions with cost share programs within RCS. There's even some within crop insurance. But sort of where our curiosity is what are the barriers to utilize those programs that beginning farmers are facing. We actually had 4 different types of focus groups. We had focus groups with those that have partaken in the government programs. We've had focus groups with those who were unable to partake in the programs, the program administrators themselves, and then those working directly with beginning farmers like adult ag educators and extension agents. And that's really where our questions were revolving around as to what are the barriers that everyone is seeing across the 4 different types of focus groups. It was kind of interesting to compare the farmers and the program administrators' perspectives especially.
So when we're looking at the qualitative data, we look at actually what people are saying. So a lot of it is recording that conversation and then retyping that conversation. So once it's been transcribed, we go through the process of finding common themes in that information that we're seeing over and over and over again. And it's not just within that one focus group from the participants, it's between all the different focus groups and trying to compare that. So we get a point of saturation where it's being described in all of the different groups that we're actually talking to. So the point where, hey, it's not just that he thinks that it's too time consuming to do the paperwork, it's that everybody or multiple focus groups actually saw that paperwork time was one of the biggest concerns. So that's big, kind of a tedious process, but critical to saying this is a true, valid.
And so how many people are we talking about in these focus groups?
Okay, so our focus groups were from 5 to 8 people. And so when you think about it, you get 8 people in a conversation. Sometimes they lasted about an hour and a half, sometimes a little shorter depending on the conversation. But the more people you have in there, you get a wide dispersion of backgrounds and interests, but then you also get a lot more conversation where people are bouncing off ideas and conversations, and you really get to some of the details that if it was just me and you talking in a conversation, we would probably miss.
So Ben, you've been working on this project for the last year and a half or so. Take me through what you've been able to identify through these focus groups.
Yeah, so again, data and results from a study like this come in the form of reoccurring themes, and those themes are the barriers that we have been able to identify to these government programs. And one of the main barriers that the data has shown is time. The sheer duration it is taking a lot of beginning producers to start the application until they receive final approval. In some instances, it's taking up to 15 months before they receive final approval. And so that's been one of the main barriers that we've been able to identify. Another reoccurring theme and a barrier to these programs is program awareness. Like you just asked earlier, there's pretty lacking awareness of the government programs that are available to beginning farmers on the state and federal levels. And there is definitely room for improvement on getting the word out there about these programs. Another one would be program resources, and this is especially in regard to the understaffing of program administrators. They're spread so thin, it's hard for them to administer the programs to the level that they know they should and could be doing if there was more staffers. And then a fourth barrier that the data showed was program requirements and eligibility. Some of the requirements are just flat out overly stringent upon beginning producers trying to qualify for these programs. And so those really have so far been the 4 main barriers identified to these programs. But a fifth code and a fifth reoccurring theme that arose from the data was program benefits. While yes, there is room for improvement within these programs, there's still a lot of people who've been able to take advantage of these programs and get their farms up and going. So the programs are definitely, they are effective, but again, there is still room for improvement.
So you have all this data, you have all this information. How do you communicate it to the program administrators? How do you communicate it to the producers in Missouri?
One of the main objectives of this study was to encourage a dialogue between beginning producers, academics, and government administrators. And so we've really been leaning on the government or on the grassroots organizations. And so we're going to have a summarized version of the results from this study, and then they can disseminate it to all their young beginning farmers within their organizations. We've also already been starting communications with federal and state congressmen and elected officials on different ways that we can improve upon these beginning farmer government programs.
Ben is wrapping up his project, but there is still a lot of work to be done when it comes to the future and next generation of American farmers.